Whenever I see you, I want to call you Miyazaki-chan. I hope you don't mind. Like, I'm just like, because I feel so close to. But we kind of do little profiles now. I was wondering if I can go back a little bit because I know when you were a kid growing up in Japan, you were so creative and you just like to make things. And I was just curious, like, what was that kind of existence like as a child? Because I feel like a lot of that has translated into the work that you're doing now as an
Yeah.
adult.
It started out, this is kind of bizarre. There's always a little piece of paper. It's like advertisement paper back in the day in the 80s. And because it's a recycled paper, they can only print one side. And when you flip it, all you see is what's printed in the front, but you can't print anything on the other side because it's too thin. So I used to start drawing like the words. I'm making 3D, like 3D words, but opposite. And that was kind of like my way of start drawing stuff. And then from there, I just I don't know. I liked making clothes. I started sewing when I was probably 7 years old, and it was just like I just always liked to do something, with hands. And my family had a mill factory, so my family was always making something with hands. So like I guess that's something being in the family for a long time. But yeah, that was
It's
like
so cool, and I love
thank you.
even in a way, like even by changing your name to Hikari, I feel like it's like your superhero alter ego. Like you created this like persona that allows you to like be whatever that person maybe sometimes like, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like switching that when you did it? Did it feel like a empowering moment for you to be like, yes, I am Hikari and I will take on the world? Like that kind of thing.
Here we come.
Yeah.
I believe in, and the Japanese, I don't know if the other country, but in Japan, we believe in the power of words. Whatever you speak, that energy resonates and vibrates to you or somebody who you're speaking to. So Mitsuyo, my real name, birth name, is written in Chinese character is light, right? And then light itself, Mitsu, is also pronounced as Hikari. So I learned that when I say Hikari is enlightenment, the energy comes from the universe. Not just me saying, I am Hikari, but if somebody call my name, that energy also goes to that person. So I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's just do that and see what
It's
happens with it.
It's
You know?
really cool. And one of the things is like, your name kind of popped up early on because I was a big fan of beef. And then I
Oh,
saw
great.
I saw your name as director and I'm like, who's this person? Like I just it was and I did a little bit, but on shows like a beef or even Tokyo Vice, what was the process of like when you were shooting this? Because it almost feels like, especially maybe on a set like beef, you like learn about the ownership of Asian perspective. Like there's something really kind of powerful about, empowering about doing something where maybe everybody on the set looks like you. And so like, what was that like? Or what was the lessons that you learned when you were shooting on these things? And then because obviously everything you learned led to making this film. And so I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
the beef beef shooting beef was like very everybody was not just the Asian culture, like the Asian filmmakers. It was mixed. Jake, who did the Thunderbolts, he was another director. It was me and Jake, and then Sunny, the creator, directed the show, and then cinematographer was Larkin, who did Everything Everywhere All at Once. He just most recently did the horror movie. I forget with the kids walking.
Oh, weapons. Yeah.
Weapons. He shot the weapons,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
And then
Yeah.
the crew was just like all like different ethnicity, and but it was such an incredible and interesting. I mean, just such a joy to work with on a project like that because I know parts of it. Korean American culture or Asian American culture. Yet the people who comes in may not know, right? So there was constantly, how can we build this gap? Because people who's going to watch it is people who doesn't know much about their culture. But it really came down to how can we execute this scene? What is the most important in this scene? Where do I want to put the camera? Where I want to see? I always wanted to put the camera where people don't know where they're looking from. People don't get to experience from being in that place. You can't just watch people from this angle, right? So I put the camera there and just like really getting to the people, that character's mind. And those are a way of telling a story. And that part never changes. It doesn't matter what kind of people we're shooting or what kind of story we're shooting, So I just kind of focused on that and just zone into that. And then that became beef.
What's been really beautiful is because immediately when I knew that you were doing Rental Family, I was like, oh, good, this is very going to be exciting. And so developing that, I mean, of course, it's a wonderful story. There's so many great things about it, but it's also a love story to Japan, and like and whether. I mean, culturally about how even though it's the loneliness exists, even and it's just really fascinating what you were like tapping into. And can you talk about developing all
Mm,
of these things and being able to tell so many different aspects in this
mm,
lovely little film that you've made, but like,
yeah,
and but also include a lot of your own story into this, which I thought was so
yeah.
beautiful when you kind of added that aspect.
Thank you. You know, authenticity is something that I always think about. And every time when I write a script, it doesn't matter what it is, I always have to interview. I want to make sure that I'm telling the truth, right? Because that to me, that's such a power of the telling the story now, what is happening with the, society too, just reflection of it. And what happened to me, because that's kind of, it's a joke almost because I can laugh about it and people think, oh my God, that happened to you. I was like, yeah, but it's kind of funny, now I'm looking back and so I can make fun of it. And just the mixing and this quality in life coming from the real story to my own story to somebody else's story, but essentially really focusing on individual characters and their journey, right? How they meet, where they start, where are they emotionally? Philip's character, he's isolated. He wants somebody else's life, but he can't. So he's just gonna observe it. To him taking the step forward and say, I want this. I'm sorry for what I did, but I want to learn. When somebody else called him gaijin, and then when that woman, when she called him, she feels bad. He wants to learn. So let's hold hand together and see where we can go with, together. So it was just like really just a collection of just people like leading everybody else to the next place. And then when something needs to stop and be called on and say, enough is enough, she does that, right? I quit. And then the owner of the rental company, man, he's just like, oh, sure, I've F up. I made a mistake. So I gotta look into myself. What am I doing it wrong? Why am I not doing it right? Why am I not even making my employee happy? What is wrong with me? So let me look into that. So
Mhm.
it's really is about mixture of learning and then really reflecting what is important to us, right? And who we are as a person. So
And to have Brendan as the kind of conduit for all of this, and I know you saw you like you watched The Whale and you were like, "This is my man," and so then having them show up and like really watch him in a weird way, also discover things about himself while kind of performing this role must be really interesting for you to see as a director too.
yeah, I mean, he's such a generous, just genuine human being, and he both know he's very hard worker, but he's also known how to be vulnerable. Perhaps may have experience in his life. I mean, we all have experienced so many emotions in our life, but he's really know how to bring that to life, doing so little. It's watching him honestly, like through camera, like viewfinder was just like every time I was like I either laughing or I'm like bowling, because he just have that quality. And that I if I'm sorry if I'm not answering your
No, you are definitely saying
but
like
yeah, but it's like he's a hero. He's such a star in he hates me when I say this, but he really is. And it was so hard to edit because he gives 3 different takes. He gives me so different things, and it was so much fun that I could just really build his character through him giving me different performances. Because one could be super dramatic, and then I had the version of who's extremely comedy, and we really find the balance to build the story of Philip, from A to V. So
I it's my last question, but I'm curious about what you do because I
yeah,
feel very invested in your spirit and very invested in your creative endeavors. And I'm curious, like, how do you kind of see the type of stories that you want to tell? Like, is there room for other types, or is this kind
yeah.
of humanity is really kind of where you want it, like,
You
kind of
know,
hang out in?
I'm such a I would say I love making movies. I love directing. I love creating. And it's crazy to me to say this is the only version. This is only tone of the movie I want to do. I have movies that is a love story. I have a movie I'm developing that is sci-fi. It's very dramatic, but really talks about circle of life, right? So for me, I think the theme has to be is the number one reason why I'm gonna do this movie next. Theme, life, family, always. That could be always something that I want to tell. But I know, and just from even this experiencing this, and just from making short film from 10 years ago, I think cinema has such a power to perhaps I wouldn't change people's perspective, sure, but also just even give 2 hours of escape, and from that 2 hours of watching my movie, if the audience can take away positivity, or just even let you think about, reflect on your life, think about what else is out there, or it just start changing people's ideas, what can they do to live life more positive or one step forward. That's the kind of movie that I really want to make. And then because I believe in the power of cinema, I believe in that we can collectively as a group change this place a better place. The world is a little crazy and funky right now. Things could happen all up here, right? But then if all of us collectively hold hands and again, enough, or let's do our own way, right? And individually, if they can bring that positivity into the story, then, or character that reflects on the audience, that would be my goal. So anything to do, anything. Maybe
I hold hands with you. I'm holding hands with you right now. Thank you so much. Really, really lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.